Hey everybody, the fake Banette here. So I recorded this on Twitch, by the way. The link to that is below. And this is just us reacting to Otstarva's add-on tier list for not tier list, but like his add-on explanation for every killer. I thought it would be fun to go over my thoughts on his thoughts on the Chucky add-ons. Now, I do want to make this clear before we get into this, and I do during this as well. There was some inaccuracies in here. I don't blame Ots for that. The wiki is messed up, and I believe he recorded this before the D&D chapter PTB was sent to live. So there's a lot of things that got changed that, yeah. Anyways, I hope you guys enjoy. And, yeah, enjoy the video. Bye. So, Ots did a add-on tier list video a few days ago. Now, Chucky was a weird one because I'm not the only one who said this. A lot of the info in here and a lot of the rankings I feel are very, very wrong. Nothing against Ots. Like, he did this for every single killer. Of course, some of them are going to be wrong and inaccurate. But we're going to go over what he says and his ideas with it. So we're going to see what he says. Now, before we get into this, just as a reminder, every time I do something like this, I'm telling this to the people on YouTube who are listening to this and the people on stream now, I am not an all-knowing Chucky player. There is particularly two add-ons that I don't agree with most Chucky mains on. And we'll get to those when we get to those. But I have watched this already. A lot of Ots' reasoning does make sense. I just don't agree with it. That's what I'm going to say. I'll turn the volume up.
Alright, Chucky, the freaking good guy. His best add-on by a long shot is the rat poison, auto-revealing. We'll explain why. So I think if you pair that with the Iri that gives him more duration, that's probably the best.
So, this is the first thing where a lot of Chucky mains were kind of squinting our eyes a little bit. Rat Poison being the best add-on for sure. I don't know a single Chucky player who disagrees with that statement. Rat Poison is Chucky's best add-on, hands down. To the point a lot of us want it nerfed. Iridescent Amulet, though, I don't agree with being as high as it is. Don't get me wrong, like, Iri Amulet is fine. It's perfectly fine. It does the job it's supposed to do. And it can be okay. However, being in hidey ho for longer is often not a good thing. Most times when you want to go for a slice and dice, you're just going to activate hidey ho on the spot. It just slice and dice there. 9 times out of 10, if you're going for like a waiting game on the slice and dice, you're maybe waiting like 4 seconds and you don't really need the amulet for it. And if you're going for a stealth build, it's better to either bring Plaything or, we'll get into it later, but Silk Pillow and Strobe Light. Like, there's no reason to bring Amulet for a stealth build because of the directional laugh. Whereas Jump Rope's third right of the Amulet. It's still in the good category. Once again, Amulet isn't bad. It's just, I don't think it's as good as he's making it out to be. That's all.
I also think that it's not a bad idea to use the cooldown add-ons. They have been recently nerfed, but they will get buffed again once they change a little thing about how
they were not buffed on PTB. I hope that changes when it comes to live. If it doesn't, behaviors are lying. I'm just saying. So the cooldown ones, Power Drill and Screwdriver. I'm going to let him finish before I get into this.
Power recovers. These add-ons that affect recovery and range are very, very minuscule compared to like the spirit.
Oh, would Jumper plus Rat Poison be the best? In my opinion, yes, but Rat Poison combined with anything is honestly the best, and it really just comes down to personal preference. I prefer Jump Rope. I know some people who prefer Power Drill. I know some people who prefer Screwdriver. I know some people who prefer Good Guy Box. We'll get into that add-on here in a minute. It really just depends on you. I don't think Power Drill is really worth it as much as it used to be. It's not bad. It saves you about 1.5 seconds for the cooldown, but I still don't think it's worth it.
30% or 40% or 50% this and that. They are very, very mild, but this killer has a strong power, so even a small improvement is quite good. You could also use the Razor for the mangled effect, which on a stealth, ambush, hit and run killer type thing is pretty good.
So that was one of the biggest disagreements I saw a lot of people having. I have made it clear that, especially now that Straight Razor has a cooldown for the mangled hemorrhage of 80 seconds, Chucky is not fast enough, in my opinion. You can't traverse the map well enough except in very specific situations, to be a good hit and run killer. I don't think Straight Razor is worth it. It's not bad. Like, if you don't really care what you're bringing and you're like, I don't know what to put on the build, Straight Razor's fine. It can work. But I don't think it's worth it just because Chucky is so slow. Even with Slice and Dice, he can't traverse the map as well as some people tend to think he can. And if you don't know where other people are and you just leave someone because of the Mangled and Hemorrhage for a hit and run style, you're kind of just placing your bets incorrectly. Chucky, a lot of times, is a killer that needs to find a survivor, down that survivor as fast as they can, move on to the next one. He can't risk hit and run styles where he hits this survivor and then goes for somebody else, unless there's a very specific situation for it. We tested hit and run before. It doesn't work as well as I think some people think. As far as the idea of Chucky being a stealth killer, I won't fully disagree with this point, but I've made it very clear because of how the laugh works, it's not as good as some people think it is.
If you're going to stay on low rarity, some of these yellow add-ons are perfectly good. I also like the add-ons that reduce the terror radius. I think...
As do I. Silk Pillow is highly underrated, and Strobe Light, we're actually testing that tonight, but I'm coming around to Strobe Light. Strobe Light and Silk Pillow are... Silk Pillow, like, he puts it in mediocre. I think Silk Pillow is honestly decent. If you know how to use it and you build around it, I think Silk Pillow is really okay. For those who don't know, Silk Pillow plus Monitor and Abuse plus Strobe Light during Strobe Light's effect. Chucky has a 10-meter terror radius. 10 meters. It's insane. You kind of have to play around it, but it's insane. 10 meters is nuts. And for a 110% movement speed killer, he kind of needs a lower terror radius. Silk Pillow does have the downside of the charge time on Slice and Dice is longer. It's 50% longer. We've done the testing. It increases it by, I think it's like half a second. It's noticeable when you're using it. It is not noticeable when you're watching it. It's one of those things. You'll feel it, but you won't really notice unless you know. And it can easily be played around. Most of the times, you're not going to miss a hit because of Silk Pillow if you know what you're doing. So I would actually put Silk Pillow a little higher if I'm honest.
They can be kind of fun. So I think that's a fun combo you can try if you understand how they work. Now let's break them one by one. The Rat Poison is by far the best Chucky add-on. It is true that anything related to auras is susceptible and is weak against perks like Distortion and whatnot.
Yeah, I'd probably put Silk Pillow probably high C, low B. Once again, it's a different playstyle. I'm addicted to it, but like I can understand it's not that great.
But assuming that you can power through that, this add-on is so good. Once you begin to use your power, you see the aura of the survivor. That is really good to make sure that they don't do any last second juke or they don't hide around some corner. That is just really, really useful. One of the best strategies you can do against Chucky is go around a corner, hide behind a hook or something, and he goes past you. That will never happen with this add-on. The nicest part about this add-on is very similar to the Hag's Willow Wreath. The duration of this is very, very long and can be longer with Lethal Pursuer.
It is 7 seconds with Lethal Pursuer. 7 seconds of full aura rating. Even if all you're doing is using Slice and Dice for mobility for whatever reason, Rat Poison is still one of, if not Chucky's best add-ons. There is, unless you're purposely handicapping yourself like I tend to, there is almost no reason not to bring Rat Poison every single game as Chucky. It helps him in every aspect of his power. Even if they have Distortion, it's not that big of a deal. A lot of times you can bring one other aura reading perk or something and just fucking shoot through the stacks. Chucky doesn't really have too much trouble tracking because of the third-person camera. If anything, no scratch marks actually makes it easier because Chucky's scratch mark view is weird because of how the game is programmed. So it actually might help you out. Yeah, I think we'll get into Hardhead in a second when Otz talks about it. Also, what an amazing freeze frame of Otz. I think Hardhead is actually pretty okay now with the cooldown changes.
Highly recommend you try it. And the idea is that after you hit a survivor, you still see them for a very long time afterwards. So what can happen, and this happens very, very often is you chase a survivor into a structure, let's say some jungle gym. You hit them with your power, and the survivor takes a speed boost and they run behind some cover. But you see exactly where they are. You know exactly what they see. So during these few seconds where they are, oh God, what's happening? And you know exactly where they are, you take advantage of the fact that you are a tiny little gremlin and you hide behind something, walk underneath a window vault or something, and catch them and hit them. Or set yourself up to use your power against.
With how low the cooldown is, too, like I've said this before about Rat Poison. Rat Poison is great in chase, it's great during the power, and it's great after the power. That is why it's so good. And honestly, once again, it is so good, I really do think it needs to be nerfed in some way. Not necessarily my change, but realistically any change. I don't know how good it would be if it was only on hit. I think it would actually be pretty decent still, but not the best. I would maybe extend the aura duration if that was the case. Mirrors just bottom. We'll get to Mirror Shards. He'll bring it up. He talks about it for a little bit.
Soon hit them. So the aura makes the chases flow into each other very well. You will never have this thing where you hit a survivor, you lose them, and you're like, oh wait, where did it go? It basically improves your chases in almost every single way. It is a very powerful add-on, and I don't think words make it justice. It's very good. A close second is the Iridescent Amulet. This add-on makes you lose your power if you miss an attack, I believe.
It does.
Or did they take that out?
They didn't take that out. It still does. Even if you miss an M1, if you M1 it for any reason, you immediately get taken out of Hidey Ho. Which isn't a bad thing. You can actually use Amulet as kind of like an M1 kind of thing because of that. I used to run it on my Stabiffle build with Chucky a lot. But yeah, I don't think Amulet should be up this high. I think Amulets should be in the yellow tier he has for decent. I'm going to let him finish before I get into my full thoughts.
I think they might have taken that out. I'm not too sure from the top of my head. All you need to know, the most important part about this add-on, forgive me if I'm missing some detail, is that it extends the duration of your power. You don't necessarily want to use your power ahead of time too much, because survivors get a bit of a warning. They start hearing and seeing illusory footprints around them. But being able to have your power for longer does give you a bit more room for mistake. It gives you less pressure to be like, oh, damn, I need to do it right now. You can wait and see what a survivor does and guarantee that you're going to put them in a situation where they will get hit no matter what. Now we're starting to...
So, Ghost Anonymous, friend of the channel, another Chucky main, made this point. One of Chucky's most powerful things is his ability to double tap. And the way you double tap is you, right before you hit the survivor, you go into Hidey Ho mode, you instantly M1, you wait, I'm trying to, it's more of a feeling, I don't know the exact timing, but it's about a second and a half, and then you immediately slice and dice. On top of that, in a lot of loops, you kind of know when to slice and dice after you play Chucky long enough. So you kind of just activate Hidey Ho on the spot, and then immediately slice and dice, right? You don't need the 50% duration increase to do those things. There are very few situations where you need the increase. It's not to say the effect is bad, but the other thing with this, you can't even really use it as a stealth add-on because of Chucky's directional laugh, which I bring up more than I think I should, but it's something I think people forget he has, and that's why I do. Being in Hidey Ho is not always a good thing. Once again, it's counterintuitive in the fact that you are stealthy to every other survivor except the one you're currently chasing, pretty much. Your red stain is gone, don't get me wrong, but if they're listening correctly, they know exactly where you are. So it's not that it's not as strong as I think some people think it is. Once again, I would put it in decent, the yellow tier he has. I would probably swap it for Hairspray Can if I'm perfectly honest with you. And I'll get into that once he gets into it, but yeah.
To go to add-ons that have smaller effects. We have the Power Drill. Whenever you successfully hit a survivor, your power comes back 8% faster. Not bad. Your power comes back, I want to say, after the buffs, it's close to like 12 seconds. So this will save you about 1 second.
It's so Power Drill, if you land the hit, it's 1.5 seconds, but yeah, it's basically 1 second. Power Drill is okay now. It used to be before the changes. Ironically, the cooldown buff nerfed almost all the cooldown add-ons because of how math works, unfortunately. Power Drill is what I call one of his comfort add-ons. We'll get into another comfort add-on that's coming up in the mediocre ones. If you're going to run a cooldown add-on, run Power Drill. It's the one that gives you the most cooldown reduction, and it kind of rewards you for getting hits. And if you do it properly, you can often... God, another great freeze frame of odds. I love this so much. If you do it correctly, you can basically down somebody in about 10 seconds. However, if you... I talk about this a lot too, where ideally you don't want to injure people with slice and dice, you want to down them with slice and dice. So, a lot of times Power Drill doesn't really get into effect because you're going to down them with slice and dice, pick them up, and then the cooldown effect doesn't even matter. Not to say it's useless, I still think it's a good add-on. I think where he placed it is perfectly fine. I'm just saying it's not necessary to bring all the time. That's all I'm going to say. I feel like to get a better double Hairspray, then do Iri. Well, the thing with that is that Hairspray and the Amulet can't combine, because once you do the M1, Hairspray goes away, or the you get out of hidey ho. That's the problem with that one.
Doesn't sound like a lot, but it's pretty damn good on a killer that wants to use their power as soon as possible sometimes. The jump rope makes the reach of your dash a little bit bigger. If you get used to it and you can really get good at using it from a distance, you can get quite a bit of value from this. It only extends it a little bit, but it's very welcome.
So it's 8%. I don't know the exact meters. I'm sorry. I don't know the exact meters it adjusts it. But the base range of slice and dice is 12.8 meters. That is the base range. It's technically 12, but you get that 0.8 from the last little dash where like Chucky actually swings. This increases that by 8%. Jump rope has a few applications that aren't really talked about, but I'll go over some of the ones that are. There are a few loops, I can't name them offhand, but there's a few loops where jump rope basically is required to use slice and dice on. This makes slice and dicing and scampering of pallets a lot more of an option during the game, and windows as well. Another big thing with jump rope, that laugh range I always talk about is not affected by jump rope. So the way Chucky's laugh works is the laugh, you'll hear the little that little laugh he does when he's undetectable. The range of it is the same range as slice and dice. However, if you're running jump rope, it's not, because jump rope will extend that by 8%. So you will actually be able to overshoot the laugh range. But yeah, it's a very good add-on. I think jump rope is probably his second best, in my opinion. All right, Dan, have a good one. I appreciate you stopping by regardless. Oh, you get more double tap use out of... Yes, I would say you get more double tap use out of spray can, for sure.
And quite useful for an add-on of this slow rarity. The Straight Razor is one of these very typical add-ons that whenever you use your power successfully, bam, mangled and hemorrhage, if I remember correctly. On this killer, as I mentioned earlier, this is a particularly useful add-on.
So, I have to fully disagree with this. It's not bad, don't get me wrong. I said this earlier. It is not bad. Straight Razor is not bad. Mangled and hemorrhage are never bad status effects. But Chucky cannot do hit and run very well. At least in my personal opinion, he can't. As someone who's played as much as I have with him, he cannot do hit and run very well, especially on a lot of the bigger maps. So I don't think it's worth it. Even though it's 80 seconds, I just don't think it's worth it. Personally speaking. Once again, I would put it in the yellow and into the decents. I think it's an okay add-on. If you don't know what to bring, it's never bad. But yeah, I just don't think Chucky can make the best use out of mangled and hemorrhage.
They buffed the yardstick, but also unfortunately removed one of the best uses for it. The yardstick allowed you to see auras, and still does, whenever you scamper under a pallet or under a or over a window. The window still works really well. So if you're in Chuck, you can vault, you can pop power, maybe use this to have it for longer. Pop your power, vault the window, and you will see everyone around you.
So we're not sure if he recorded this before or during the PTB. We think he did, because you can't do this anymore. Yardstick, which is why I think he put Yardstick as high as he did. Yardstick, it's not bad. The thing with Yardstick, and this is why I've suggested they increase the range of it or the duration, one of the two. The only time you're getting effects out of this is when you're in Slice and Dice and you scamper the window or the pallet. It's the only time you're using it. The thing is, most of the time when you're doing that, you already know where the survivor is, so it doesn't really give you information that you don't already have. Plus, if a survivor knows what they're doing, all they're going to do is just hug the window or pallet, so you can't even get the Slice and Dice hit anyways. So this doesn't really do much for you. Yeah, I don't think Yardstick is very good anymore. It's not worthless or anything. I'd still put it in yellow, personally, into the decent tier. But I don't think it's worth running unless like you're building unless you're going like full aura reading. I don't think it's worth bringing.
Which is super, super useful. Under a pallet, it's because
Okay. All right, moving on.
you're already dashing.
Because this scene is usually during the interviews and stuff, so I don't like having the alerts on.
And then it's not very useful. So this is no longer super good at pallets like it used to be, but it's still a decent add-on. It's a bit of a alternative to the rat poison. You can also run them together if you're crazy. The portable TV is like a version of the jump rope, but on steroids. It makes you... It's not like 8%, it's like 40 or something crazy percent. It gives you a much, much longer...
70. It is 70%. I'm sure I got that number wrong. It's insane how much portable TV affects how long the dash goes. However, only in endgame. Only in endgame. The problem with portable TV that I have, and I think it's fine in the decent category, I actually think I ought to put it in a decent spot. The problem I have with portable TV is basically when you're running this add-on, you're pretty much going the whole match with just one add-on the whole time until endgame. That's not a terrible thing, especially if you build into it. It's not bad at all. It's a really fun add-on. I think it's really, really fun and has its uses. And Chucky can't really use NOED with it because it's an M2, but you can combine this with Terminus and get some really good use out of it as well. I will say that.
Your dash forever, but only starting at the end game. I personally love this thing. Survivors do not expect it ever. If you have an endgame build with some perks to make the endgame last a bit longer, such as No Way Out, Remember Me, yada yada, you can hit a survivor, then power up, and then go halfway across the map with your power. And then if you take a window or a pallet, it resets it, so you can take another super long sprint. So you can basically be like a little Billy going around the entire map. It is hilarious.
It is great.
Not the most competitive, deadly add-on, but really fun nonetheless. We then have two add-ons that change your terror radius. The strobing light has a small terror radius reduction when you're not using your power.
So strobing light, once again, we're testing this tonight, but I've come around on strobe light. I thought it was bad. I really did. I thought it was just because of the cooldown change. I thought it was just very bad. Strobing light and having a lower terror radius on Chucky is very powerful. People don't see you coming because of the footsteps and stuff, and if you're using the line of sight blockers properly, they really don't see you coming in time. It's actually very, very powerful. The thing with strobe light, though, is you have to play into it to get the most use out of it. My recommendation for those wondering how you use it, activate Hidey Ho immediately and then end it immediately, and just keep doing that until you're in chase, and then go for the slice and dice hits. You really don't want to be slice and dicing unless you're in chase anyways, so it's not bad.
That's pretty good. That's actually fairly nice. It is, I believe they buffed it 8 meters.
It is 8,
very similar
yes.
to Monitor and Abuse. It is good. It is good. Normally, when you use your stealth power, survivors are a bit on edge because they hear the footprints. But if you're getting close and you're not using your power, they will not expect you, and they're very much more likely to get caught off guard by an attack. So this is really, really nice and has no downside. The other one is the Silk Pillow. This reduces your terror radius not just when your power is on, not just like on when your power is on cooldown, but like permanently. This is really, really nice and pairs really well with the strobing light and monitor and abuse and other perks of the style that reduce your terror radius, because it's just, it makes you a almost Myers-esque small terror radius killer, which is pretty terrifying.
Once again, Silk Pillow combined with Strobe Light, combined with Monitor Abuse while your power's on cooldown. 10-meter terror radius.
On Chucky sometimes. Not always a huge deal. Some teams, they'll see you constantly and they'll call you out constantly, but it can be okay, right? The point of this add-on, however, is that it does have a downside. It makes your recovery longer. It's like a opposite of a power drill, and it makes your recovery take 50%.
So it's not the recovery; it's the charge speed of the slice and dice. It's once again, I don't even blame odds for this. The wiki has some of these worded very stupidly. Just when we get to the carving knife, you'll see it. It's worded so dumbly on the wiki. Anyways, I'll put it, for those watching on YouTube, I'm going to put a clip up right here of the difference. It is literally half a second more. Once again, that can matter, but once you play around with it enough and get used to it, it's really not that bad. And I think having the lower terror radius makes up for Chucky being 110. I mean, it should be noted, every other 110% movement speed killer in the game has a lower terror radius except for Deathslinger. And Huntress. But Hag and Spirit are 110, and they both have 24-meter terror radiuses. Chucky is the only non-ranged 110 movement speed killer that does not have a lower terror radius. And this can allow you to get the jump on survivors very easily, especially if you don't even have to bring strobe light. Just combine it with monitor and abuse, and you would be surprised how often you can run up on survivors with it without even going into your power.
50% longer. That is kind of yikes. So this is a bit more of a meme add-on than a serious choice for the best add-on, but it's something you can still try, and it can give you a good result. Give it a shot. Automatic Screwdriver. Very similar to the Power Drill in that it gets your power a bit back a bit earlier, but only if you miss. Now you might be like, well, Odds, I am a professional gamer. I don't plan on missing. You should actually. Sometimes using your power for mobility is a bit of a play, similar to how the Spirit or the Nurse use their offensive power for mobility. So there's no shame in using your power for mobility and taking advantage of this add-on to just get it back sooner. This again saves you about a second.
It pretty much is just a second. So you go from 12-second cooldown to 11. I don't think Screwdriver is worth bringing anymore because of the changes to the cooldown. That being said, if you're gonna use the power for mobility, like you're running a save the best for last build, or you're just fearing you're going to be on a bigger map, or you just like using it for mobility, go ahead. There's actually some cool plays you can do with Screwdriver. You can block a window similar to Wraith and Legion. You can block a pallet and get pallet control immediately with it, and get your power back faster because of that. There's a lot of cool plays you can do with Screwdriver. I personally don't think it's worth it most of the time, but you can do it. I don't think it's terrible. I think putting it in decent's fine.
Slightly more perhaps of cooldown. Not bad. The Hairspray and Candle. Very interesting. When you pop your power, if you hit a survivor with a basic attack, you lose a big chunk of your power. You then almost immediately have
It is 50%, by the way. Every hit you get is 50% of your power gone.
To use it, or sometimes lose it completely. With the Hairspray and Candle, you get less of a penalty. This used to be even deadlier back when Chucky could go over under palace and do that very quickly. Now I think it's not as good. But still, even if it only triggers a couple times per game, this can be good. So say, for example, right? You use your power, a survivor makes a mistake and runs into you, or some other survivor body blocks and runs into you. What you can do, instead of using the special attack, is just hit them, and by the time you recover, thanks to this add-on, you will still have a little bit of power left, and at that point you can use a long sprint to catch up, maybe even hit them if you're a bit lucky, especially if you have some other range options. So yeah, that can be okay.
So Hairspray and Candle is probably my comfort add-on and probably the one to crutch on the most. But this helps with double taps. It helps with save the best for last if you want to run it. I mention this all the time. I think Chucky actually uses a save pretty decently. Just because you don't see it that often. It can help for body blocks. Now the thing he just mentioned, where like you hit somebody and then you M2 to catch up. I haven't done the exact testing on it, but from what I know and have seen from my gameplay, it's about 1.5 seconds. So after you do the M1 and they run away, count in your head 1.5 to 2 seconds, and then hit your slice and dice, and you should, at the very least, be able to catch up to them to hit them again with an M1. If you're running jump rope, you can basically just down them immediately right then and there. I think Hairspray Can being decent, though, is fine. It's something I wouldn't recommend people bring all the time, but it has its uses, and if you enjoy it, it can be very good. I'm so glad Oz has an opinion on something, so I can have an opinion on it now. Listen, Garrett, listen. All right.
Unfortunately, the add-ons get a little bit bad from here. The pile of nails has been inexplicably nerfed.
I don't know why.
This add-on was okay as it was.
Why was it nerfed?
But whatever. It's been nerfed a little bit. It's still all right, I guess. Let me explain what it does. So I told you earlier, and I've really tried to hammer down this point, that when you use your stealth power, when you activate your stealth, survivors that are on a gen are going to be a bit on the edge. They're going to see the footprints around them. They're going to hear the little things and see the little graphics around them. And they're going to be like, okay, he could be coming towards me. What you can do with this add-on is actually play into the opposite. You use your power, you cancel it on purpose yourself, and then you walk to a gen. And for the next 3 seconds with this add-on, you have no terror radius, and you don't leave any footprints because you're not in power. So a survivor that is expecting you to have your power, so a survivor that is expecting you to be far away might sometimes find themselves surprised. An interesting add-on, and kind of useful now that your cooldown is shorter.
So, okay, a few things with don't get me wrong, I agree with him, it's in red. Don't worry, this add-on is fucking terrible. Pile of Nails is so bad. He's overselling it a bit. So, the way Pile of Nails works is when you manually end hidey ho mode. Manually end is the key word there, not a slice and dice end. You have to manually end it. You get undetectable for 3 seconds. Now, this has a few problems. Few upsides. One, you get undetectable, so yeah, he's right. They don't see the footsteps. That's actually good. However, when you manually end hidey ho mode, Chucky laughs really, really fucking loud. He will laugh. When you in hidey ho, he will basically go like, ah, ha, ha, ha. And like any survivor, I don't know the range on it, but they can hear it. It's insane. That laugh lasts for 2.5 seconds. So you have basically half a second of undetectability where they have no idea where you are. It's not worth it because of that. On top of that, even if it didn't do that, the whole he chuckles, that whole thing, he still does that when he's undetectable for any reason, including Pile of Nails. So you can't even use it for stealth in that way. So yeah, Pile of Nails is just bad. I don't know why they nerfed it. I don't think it needed the nerf. I legitimately don't know what their thought process was with it, but yeah.
Already explained the stick pillow. The running shoes make it so that anytime you vault under a pallet or vault over a window, you are a bit faster. This used to be actually kind of good because vaulting under pallets was a very dirty thing that Chucky could do, but he can no longer do that without committing to a dash, so it's not very good. This does help you in situations where you vault a window with the scamper, which is a bit faster than a normal vault outside of power.
Can't do that anymore.
You have to catch up and hit a survivor before they go back to the window or to some other pallet. But it's a very tiny increase. I believe it's a 3% faster increase for like...
It's a 2% increase. Once again, the wiki, I don't know if it's been updated properly. Anyways, it's a 2% increase in movement speed for 5 seconds. The problem with this add-on, one, it doesn't work on Windows anymore. So it only works in slice and dice scampers. Two, I mentioned this earlier with Yardstick. If the survivors just hug the window or the pallet, you're not hitting them anyways, so the 2% doesn't do anything. Situations where this does help you is if the survivor W's away from the window or the pallet because of light or something. Yes, very flattering pause frames on Otz. I don't. It's on purpose, I swear. Otz is a beautiful man. Okay, I don't know why YouTube doesn't do it justice with the freeze frames. Anyways, If they're holding W, like immediately after a window vault or a pallet vault for whatever reason, some people do it. Lithe brain gets to them. You will catch up to them. It's actually very good for that. Otherwise, though, I don't think it's realistically worth it. There's like Shaq is the one exception. You can actually use this in Shaq to, you can slice and dice the window from outside, slice and dice into the pallet and hit them on the corner. Once again, that's assuming they aren't just sitting by the pallet. You can also do the inverse. You can slice and dice the pallet into the window and then get them as they're going into the door. This gives you just enough movement speed to do that. Otherwise, it's not that great. I would love to be proven wrong if someone has like clips of this working on certain loops that it would only work on with this add-on. But you'd be better off just bringing jump rope. You just get the increased range versus the increased movement speed. In theory, you could bring both, I guess, but I don't think it's worth it personally.
Like a couple seconds, very, very small effect. You can totally skip it. This add-on increases the, yeah.
Okay, this is where I was getting into this. The wiki has good guy box and carving knife weirdly worded for some reason. One says reduce and then one says increases by. And like, okay, one says reduces by 5% and one says changes the number to 90 or to 93, which means it reduces it by 7. I don't know why they have it worded that way. I really wish they would fix it. But yeah, he'll get in the good guy box. Here's the thing with good guy box. I know a few Chucky mains who run this add-on. They swear by it. However, if you ask a couple of them if it really is that good, because I've done the math on this, in a straight line, good guy box will save you 0.25 seconds. You will catch up 0.25 seconds faster. This is almost irrelevant, especially in most loops, but it can get you a hit here and there. But most of the Chucky mains who run this say it is legitimately a placebo and a comfort thing. My recommendation is don't run it. I don't think it's worth it. I have tried it multiple times and never felt like it was giving me the use that it should be. Yeah, I honestly would just put it in mediocre like it is.
Oh, I am mixing them up at the moment. Oh, which one is it? Okay, I believe that this add-on decreases the cooldown of your successful attack. So it's like a mini save the best for last.
Yeah,
I think
that's
this one.
No, that's like
this one.
The good guy box is on hits.
Increases it on a miss.
Or on
I'm
a
pretty
miss,
sure
I'm
that's
sorry.
what they do. Let me confirm because I don't want to give you false information. Yeah, I had it right the first time. This one makes it reduces 7% of the cooldown. So it's like, I guess 2 stacks of save the best for last. And this one removes 5% of your miss attack cooldown. So it's like a worse unrelenting. This, if the number was bigger, the electric carving knife would actually be pretty good, but 5% is very little. It's very little.
0.25
and even
seconds.
7% is very little.
0.25 seconds.
Barely notice this add-on. It's a good effect, but it's just too little. We now have the hard hat. The hard hat allows you to vault under a pallet and immediately destroy it. There are very few situations where you want to do this. Very few situations. But every now and then, I tried it, and I honestly could not get value out of this add-on for the longest time. But every now and then, you will have a pallet that you've been ignoring, and you'll be like, hey, now is a good time. I'm gonna go to it underneath it, bam, and it breaks. This add-on used to be really, really bad because it had a downside, but the downside has been removed. Chucky can no longer vault under pallets normally, so you might as well use this. It's better than nothing.
So, hard hat. I think hard hat is... Honestly, it should go up. I think it should be in the decent. There are times when you're just going to slice and dice the pallet anyways, or like it's off of cooldown, you're there, you're using it for mobility or whatever. Or breaking the pallet is nice. It just saves you some time. I don't recommend bringing it all the time. I don't think it's like S tier or anything, but I think it's fine. And with the cooldown changes, I think it's better than it used to be. And since you can't manual scamper anymore, it's not an active detriment like it was before. So yeah, I think hard hat's fine now, personally.
The dull eyes are interesting. Whenever you have your power ready, and you use it, you basically see the autos of, I think, nearby pallets and windows. It's like a mini Zanshin Tactics or a killer version of the Windows of Opportunity perk for survivors. I mean, that's kind of cool, I guess, but it comes a little bit too late. It's not like you already typically use your power when you're already committed to knowing what you're going to do in the next few seconds, so it's quite weird.
So doll eyes are... He's technically not wrong. It's downed pallets and windows. It's basically vaultable locations. The Hatternet, thank you for the follow. I appreciate it. For the follow. What was I saying? Oh yeah, good doll eyes. It's also within 20 meters. Now, the thing with this is, I've made this very clear, that Slice and Dice's range is about 12.5-ish meters. So you can't even really, like, use this to help you plan too much. I don't think it's worth running. I think putting in mediocre is fine. I don't even think it's a good learning tool or anything like that. If you want this effect, honestly, bring Zanshin. Just bring Zanshin Tactics. You'll get more use out of that than you will with Doll Eyes, personally. Where's my mouse? Whoops.
Similarly, the tiny scalpel, using when using your power, you see the pools of blood that survivors leave brighter. It is very similar to the Bloodhound perk and the Hound add-on on the Wraith. And as you can remember from that, I'm sure it's not very good.
Tiny scalpel is not good. There's a few reasons. One of the biggest reasons is because Chucky naturally sees blood better because he's so low to the ground. The camera picks it up a little bit better. However, if you're going to run Scalpel, same thing with Doll Eyes, just run Bloodhound. If you really want to track with blood, just run Bloodhound. It's up at all times, and it makes the blood last longer. Like, honestly, just run Bloodhound. There's no shame in it. If you like tracking with blood, just run Bloodhound. And I'm just saying, it's... Scalpel isn't, like, detrimental. We'll get to the one detrimental add-on. He has some words on it. I have pretty much the same words on it. But yeah, just avoid Scalpel. It's not worth it. I have, like, 3,000 of the things that I'm never going to use because it's just that bad.
Seeing blood a bit brighter, it's like, okay. Now we have a very strange add-on. Whenever survivors have illusory footprints around them and they step on them, they get exhausted. This is so weird. It's just so weird. If they're on a gen, that will almost never happen.
So he'll get a bit more into plastic bag. Here's the thing with plastic bag. I have made my thoughts on this very clear. You don't know, unless you're running mirror shards, which we'll get into why you shouldn't run mirror shards here in a minute. You don't know if it hits the person that you're chasing. More than likely, the only people this is hitting is people on gens that you're not chasing. And will never probably end up chasing for any time soon. On top of that, even if you hit the person you're chasing, you don't know it hit them, so what does it matter? Like, I don't understand why plastic bag is a purple. I don't understand why it's exhausted. I hate bringing up my own suggestions for things because I'm like, oh, well, clearly I know better. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that I feel like if this did Oblivious, or just use Mindbreaker. Just use Mindbreaker. I feel like if this did Oblivious for like 30 seconds, it would make more sense, fit more thematically, and would actually be decent. Because Oblivious is a status effect that Chucky loves because the laugh doesn't happen in Oblivious. Yeah, but don't run plastic bag. Just don't. You will... I have tried so many times to get use out of this add-on, and it never works. And if it does, I don't see the effect, so I don't know. Like, it doesn't go on cooldown or anything like Langwin does. It doesn't work on people that are injured like Blood Echo does. It literally gives you no feedback that it does anything. And while that's not the most important thing, it does matter when you're trying to evaluate if an add-on is good or bad.
Yes, you will accidentally like spawn or walk into one. So this add-on, which is a purple, sometimes accidentally gives them a bit of exhaustion. It is almost impossible from your point of view to know when this has happened, and it is incredibly difficult to know when this might have actually helped you. Even though exhausting survivors is not a horrible effect, many common perks such as life, dead hard, balance landing, etc. can be countered by exhaustion. This is just one of the absolute worst exhaustion inducers in.
All right, let's go down the list. Sprint burst. They already sprint bursted away. You're chasing them. Who cares? Life. More than likely, they've already lifed in the loop. Who cares? Head on. You're probably not chasing them. They're in a locker. Who cares? Smash hit. How often do you realistically see smashed hit? Balance landing. Maybe, but once again, how often are you seeing balance landing? The one exhaustion that this works, or two now, technically, because Iron Will probably start getting used more. But the one major one is Dead Hard. And even then, Dead Hard is just run Langwind Touch if you really don't like Dead Hard, or run Mindbreaker. There's a lot of different options. Plastic Bag just isn't worth it. It's just not.
In the entire game. Thus, I do not recommend it. I think the value that you get from this will be minimal, and even when it happens, you probably will not even be aware. We then have an add-on that is arguably worse than nothing.
He's going to get into this. It is a running joke on the channel here. Mirror Shards is probably one of the worst add-ons in the entire game. Not in the sense that, the effect isn't good. In the sense that it is actively detrimental. You hear the footsteps. Once again, he'll get into this, but you'll hear the footsteps of not only you, the survivor you're chasing, and two more sets of footsteps, because the illusionary footfalls is two sets of footsteps. So if you're trying to use audio to track people, which isn't very uncommon with Chucky, you're going to miss it. It's going to mess you up completely. On top of that, seeing the footsteps isn't really that big of a deal. You can use this to track. There is a logic to them. For those who don't know, basically, if the footsteps will spawn within 16 meters of the survivor. So if you see them on the ground and you're not currently chasing somebody and you see the footsteps, that means someone is 16 meters away, minimum. Once they hit that 60-meter range, they double back and they start walking back towards the survivor. But I don't think it's worth it just for that tracking. If you're trying to do all that with tracking, bring Whispers. That's the thing with a lot of these bad add-ons. There's just perks that do their jobs better. Yeah, Mirror Shards just, it's not worth it.
God. So basically, this allows you to hear. It's a bit like the Doctor add-on that allows you to see the Doctor illusion so that you know where survivors are, but way, way worse. This allows you to see and hear the footprints that survivors have happen around them, so that if you're randomly using your power and there's some dude somewhere around you, you might get an idea that they're there. Let me first state the obvious. If you don't know where survivors are, don't use your power for stealth. It has a very limited time. You don't want to use it willy-nilly. You want to use it when you know someone's there as a chase power. You don't want to use it to randomly go around the map, in my very modest opinion, even if you have the longer duration. That would be the only time where maybe it's a bit more acceptable. But even then. But this add-on is actually worse than nothing, because these footsteps are incredibly distracting. They sound the same as normal footsteps. So the problem that you're going to have is that you're going to go around the map and you're going to hear footsteps randomly around you, and you will not know if they are footsteps from a survivor or random footsteps that are happening to a survivor that may or may not be relatively close to you. This is such an absolute way to mess with your senses. It does generally make the game harder, and I recommend you stay away from this as a general rule. On to one.
So, yeah, in general, if you can avoid it, don't run Mirror Shards. It is such a bad add-on. I don't understand how it got through testing. I don't understand what they were thinking when they were making it. I don't understand why it's a purple. Yeah. Anyways, for the YouTube folks, tell me what you guys think. I love AOTS. As always, any criticism is just me trying to correct things and give my own thoughts on it. But yeah. Well, I love you guys. Have a good one, and yeah. Bye!
Subscribe, damn it. I'll be back. I always come back, and so should you, you moron.